Hello everyone. Today we'll be discussing about the theory of custom union. A custom union allows no tariffs or other barriers on trade among members. And in addition, it harmonizes trade policies towards the rest of the world. The most famous example is the European Union or European Common Market, formed in 1957 by West Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Luxembourg. Another example is the Joulverian or custom union established in 1834 by a large number of sovereign German states, which proved significant in Bismarck's unification of Germany in 1870. We'll be covering the topic in this regard, the partial equilibrium effect of custom union by covering the trade creation, trade diversion, and net welfare effects of custom union. There is also the Wiener assumption, which we'll be discussing, and the general equilibrium approach of custom union by covering the Lipset and the Warnock model. So let's talk about the partial equilibrium effect of custom union first. We'll be following few assumptions here. The custom union includes two countries, A and B. Means there are the two countries, A, B would be considering the home country, and the B is the partner country with which country A has formed this custom union. And there is another country, C, which we are going to treat the rest of the world to it. The custom union imposes a common external tariff, and there is an absence of any other type of trade restrictions. Means we are talking about there would be absence of non-tariff barrier in this regard. The custom union imposes only a specific tariff, and the home country is originally having balance of trade equilibrium, that is exports equals to imports. And also we'll be following the assumption, which is what the perfect competition, following the perfect competition both in product and the factor market, also considering that there is the zero transportation cost, and also there is the imperfect factor mobility between the countries, and also the perfect factor mobility within the country. Okay, so these perfect competition assumptions are being followed similarly what we do follow in case of other markets. So let's take an illustration of it. We have three countries as discussed in case of assumption. The country A is the home country, the B is the partner country, and the C we are treating as the rest of the world. But first we'll talk about before the formation of custom union. The A is producing the commodity X. Let's say this is a commodity X at rupees 50 at its own country. So the per unit cost in rupees we are calculating, and the X commodity price in country A would be rupees 50. And the country B is producing the same commodity X at rupees 40 and also offering at rupees 40 to country A. Then country C is there, which is producing this X commodity at rupees 30 and offering this commodity to country A at rupees 30. So this is before formation of any custom union, and also before imposition of any tariff in the world economy. So the country C is offering this X commodity at the lowest price in the world economy to the country A. Okay. Then there is the imposition of 50% import tariff by country A on country B and on country C, because there is no formation of custom union till now. So both the countries B and C will be in the category of imposition of tariff, import tariff by this country A. So the country A is imposing 50% tariff on country B. So now they are offering this commodity at rupees 60, or we say in the domestic market for their own consumers in country A, the price of commodity X would now be rupees 60. Similarly, this rupees 30 would now be 45 for the consumers of country A. Okay. Then this country A is forming custom union with the country B, because this country B comes under the regional boundary of this country A. So that is why they formed this custom union, and they removed all tariff and the non-tariff barriers of the country B. So the 60 would now be reduced to 40 again, because the tariff has been reduced. We are also assuming that there is not the presence of any non-tariff barrier in the economy by or the imposition by country A on the country B. So we have zero non-tariff barrier, and the tariff, a specific tariff which was imposed on this commodity X, is now reduced to 40 because there is now the custom union. But the country C, they are treating as the rest of the world. So that is why this price would remain safe. On also this imposition of tariff, which is a 50% import tariff, would remain safe. Now to understand this more, we'll go to the next slide. We'll be taking the commodity acts at the x-axis and the prices we are measuring on the y-axis. We have a demand curve of the commodity acts for the country A and the supply curve for the commodity acts for the country A. So there is the intersection between the demand curve and a supply curve. At this, they are offering this commodity in their domestic market at rupees 50, which is what OP1. So we know that this price, rupees 50, is the highest one. And the other countries, like country B, is offering this commodity at rupees 40, and the country C is offering at rupees 30. So the country who is offering this commodity acts at the lowest price, that is country C, which is what the free trade price also, because there is no imposition of import tariff, and also there is no formation of custom union till this time. So we are talking about this, and the country C is offering the price. This is what rupees 30, and that's also a free trade price. We also can see that the supply curve is the perfectly elastic supply curve here, and we already have seen in case of partial equilibrium effect of tariff for a small country, the foreign market supply curve is always perfectly elastic. Now what happens if there is imposition of import tariff by this country A on country C? So this prices, first of all, would now be reduced. It means the supply curve would shift upward to this ST. Okay. So because of this, the prices for consumers of the country A would now be from 32 rupees 45. Okay. This is the 50% ad valorem of import tariff, which has been imposed by the country A on country C. So because of this, now there will be the change in the consumer surplus. The reason because at rupees 30, the consumer surplus was equal to this larger triangle, now has reduced to this smaller triangle. So this shows that there is a loss in the consumer's surplus because of the imposition of import tariff. But at the same time, there is a collection of tariff revenue by the country A. So that is the gain in the government collections too. But now there is the formation of custom union. As we have seen that the formation of custom union, the country A would form this custom union with country B and will treat this country C as the rest of the world. And because of that, the country B's all tariffs will be removed by this country A, and the price now will be for commodity acts is rupees 40. So P4, which is rupees 45, with the imposition of tariff by country C's price would now be larger than the custom union's price offered by this country B. And the supply curve is same, which is what the perfectly elastic in this case. Now, because of the prices have come down, there will be the gain in consumer surplus, that is P4, P3, and FG is visible. It means there is a larger triangle now as a result of this formation of custom union. Now we'll be discussing about the trade creations in this regard. So first of all, what is the trade creation? Trade creation occurs when some domestic production in a nation that is a member of custom union is replaced by lower cost imports from another member nation. So basically, because this particular nation is offering price rupees 40, then the other country, which was rupees 45, definitely is a lower one. So that is why we consider this as what the trade creations. But what are the the effects you can measure in this regard? The one is price effect, the second is production effect, the third is consumption effect, then revenue effect, and the finally welfare effect. So we'll be talking about these. First of all, we'll talk about this price effect. The price effect is very much immediate effect, will come out after the formation of custom union as compared to the tariff ridden price, which is what the OP4 here. Okay, this will immediately fall from OP4 to OP3. So this is good news for the consumers of country A. So that is the first thing, which is the positive for the country A and also indicating a trade creation. Then the Professor Jacob Weiner has also talked about the production effect. We know that before the formation of custom union, the domestic production in country A was OQ1. This was OQ1 at OP4 price. Now we all know that earlier, before the participating in international trade, this commodity acts was being produced at rupees 50 in the domestic market. So this also indicating this particular commodity is not the box of comparative advantage of this country. It means if we are producing this commodity a bit more, then we are losing our efficiency. Okay. So at P4 price, this triangle is basically the loss in efficiency, or in other words, it's a protection cost for the government. So as you come down from OP4 to OP3, so this quantity of a production would also decline. You are coming from OQ1 to basically OQ3. So this triangle GEK is now actually the gain in our efficiency. Okay, we are not producing the commodity which is not according to our comparative advantage. So our cost definitely will reduce. So that triangle is indicating some efficiency which we are getting. That is why this Professor Jacob Weiner is considering this part and a portion as a trade creation effect. Then also there is a consumption effect. So many economists who has invented this theory of custom union, like Professor Jacob Weiner, also the Mead, Gehls, and Lipsey and Johnson, they have recognized this consumption effect. So before the formation of custom union, the quantity demanded was OQ2, okay? And afterwards, this was OQ4. This was the another immediate impact, which was a gain in consumption. So earlier we were consuming OQ2 when the price was OP4. And as it is OP3, we are consuming more as per the law of demand too. Thus the demand for this commodity acts is rising from Q2 to Q4. So this additional demand is met through imports from the partner country B. Thus the increase in consumption is now Q2 to Q4. So this triangle we cannot miss out here. This is FLH. So this triangle is also the net gain in the consumption you can see over here. Then we'll talk about the revenue effect too. The revenue effect, we know this much of the portion we were actually collecting the revenue from the country C. Okay. Now, definitely there would be the loss in revenue, but at the same time, the one thing which is very important, because this particular triangle GK and also this particular triangle FLH, this would be compared in the loss of revenue and the net gain of these two. If these two triangles are greater than this, then you may have a positive revenue also in a trade creation effect. But another thing which is important in this case, and that is what? A welfare effect. We know that the total gain in the consumer surplus is this P4, P3, and FH. Okay. Then loss in producer surplus can also be considered. That is P3, P4, GE. Fine. And then if you consider this is a loss in revenue. So this whole is the gain. And if we subtract this portion from this gain and also this portion from this gain, still we are left over with this GEK and FLH. And if we left over with these two triangles, then it is net welfare gain for the country. For any country, when the people are consuming more of that commodity, and also we are saving our potential and substituting this potential in other industries where we have comparative advantage, then definitely it is a trade creation for the country. Then we will talk about the trade diversion in this regard. The trade diversion occurs when lower cost imports from outside the custom union are replaced by higher cost imports from a union member. Okay. This results because of the preferential trade treatment given to the member nation. So we have given preference to the country B, and we diverted from lower cost, which is a country C. From this country, we are diverting to the higher cost country, which is what the B. Because we know before the formation of custom union, before the imposition of import tariff, the country C was offering this commodity at the lowest price. So while the trade creation results in a gain in welfare, the diversion of a trade from a non-member country C to the member country B after the formation of custom union involves some loss in the welfare. The reason for it is that the trade gets diverted from a more efficient, a low cost country C to the less efficient or high cost country B. So we'll go back to the diagram. Before the formation of custom union, the home country A was importing this commodity, which was Q1 and Q2 quantity of commodity from the non-member country C. Fine. After the formation of custom union, the quantity imported is Q3 and Q4. Fine. This much of the quantity we were importing. So out of this Q3 and Q1 and this Q2 and Q4 can be identified as trade creation effect, and the remaining quantity imported, which is what Q1 and Q2, is the trade diversion effect. Now let me explain why. Before the formation of custom union, the payment for importing country, we were giving Q1, E, F and Q2. Out of it, the revenue receipts to the government of the home country amounted, this was E, M, F and N. So this whole box was the revenue receipts. So the actual payment to the country C for the import of Q1 and Q2, this Q1 and Q2, quantity of this X was Q1, M, N and this Q2. So this was the actual amount we were paying for that. Now, after the formation of custom union, the same quantity Q1 and Q2 is being imported from the partner country B on account of trade diversion. So I'm not considering this, but this also, if Q1 and Q2 we are considering on the account of trade diversion. So since no tariff is applicable to B, the total payment to it due to import amounts would be Q1, this Q1, K, L and this Q2. Fine. So this much of the amount for this quantity we are paying. So from this Q1, K, L, Q2, if you subtract Q1, M, N, Q2, so K, M, N, L, which is shown through the shaded area, this represents a loss or reduction in welfare. This is the loss or reduction in welfare. So from this, it follows that the trade diversion causes a reduction in welfare. The simple reason for the decline in welfare is that the imports are made from less efficient or higher cost partner country B rather than more efficient, which is low cost non-member country C. So from C, you are diverting your trade towards B. This is indicated this loss in the welfare, which is KMLN according to the trade diversion. Now we'll discuss about the net welfare effects of custom union. Now this is very important. See here the two diagrams are given. Now the demand and supply curve you can observe over here, and the demand and supply curve you can observe over here. These demand and supply curve are a bit steeper and these are a bit flatter. Now the steeper demand curve and a flatter demand curve may also have a difference in terms of net welfare effects of custom union. Here we can see the similar prices, the quantity of X we have here, the price we have here at the Y-axis. The OP2 price is the country C's price, which is without imposition of import tariff. OP4 price, which is 45 price after the imposition of tariff. And then P3 price after formation of custom union, which is a price rupees 40 offered by this country B. So these specifications are similar. Now what's happening here, because of the demand and supply curve are steeper supply curve is also indicating the demand and supply curve's elasticity in the country A is relatively inelastic. This shows that if we are considering the change from OP4 prices to the OP3 prices, then there will not be a big change in the quantity demanded for this country itself. Okay. The reason behind it is the nature of a commodity acts as inelastic. So people will not see the more change in the quantity demanded. It means the change in prices would be greater than the change in quantity demanded. So the producers also will show a bit gain in the potential or efficiency here by producing this commodity less. So it means the uh, reduced quantity in the production, this is also very less, and also the increment in the production, increment in the consumption is also very less. So these triangles FLH and GEK, these are smaller in proportion if you find this thing in case of elastic in nature. Okay, so in case of relative inelastic in nature, when the commodities are basic necessities, you'll find the effects, the change in the effects in these triangles are a bit less. And then the loss in the welfare due to the trade diversion could be greater in this case. Okay, so the same quantity for the Q1 and Q2, our loss in the welfare would be greater than these two triangles sum. Then we call it a trade diversion in this regard. Whereas when the demand and supply curves are a bit flatter, it means we are considering these commodities which we are importing, which is what the X commodity is durable or maybe a luxurious or elastic in nature. In that case, the people would show more change in the consumer surplus. So the higher change in the consumer surplus, P4, P3 and FH, this gives you a bigger triangles of efficiency. This is GEK, and also a bigger increment, larger increment in the consumption, LFH. So the sum of these two triangles will be greater than this welfare effect. So in that case, here this is indicating trade creation. So a steeper supply curves and a demand curve is indicating trade diversion, and a flatter demand curve and a supply curve is indicating trade creation with the net welfare effects of a custom union. Let me now more talk about on net welfare effects of trade creation. See here we have three different prices. The P2 will be considering here the pre-union free trade price, okay, and this P3 we will be considering post-union price, and the P4 we have the tariff-ridden price. Now the difference between these prices is also very important to see whether it is generating trade creation or the trade diversion. If we have a smaller difference between P4 and P3, it means this is a tariff-ridden price and P3 is a post-union price. If our tariff-ridden price is 45 and a post-union price is 44 only, it means there is a small difference, only 1 rupee difference. Then the generation of these triangle of the welfare impact, this is GEK and LFH, due to the gain in consumer surplus would be smaller. Okay, and the larger difference between P3 and a P2, it means a post-union price and also this free trade price. A greater difference between these two would generate a higher welfare loss due to the trade divergence. So that is why this whole indicating the sum of these triangle would be smaller than this loss of KMLN. So this whole impact is talking about trade divergence in this case. Whereas a greater difference between P4 and a P3, it means if this price is 45 and this P3, which is a post-union price, if it is 35, so there is a rupees 10 difference between these two, is generating the higher gain in consumer surplus, and because of that this GEK triangle and LFH triangle is also in the greater proportion. The smaller difference between P3 and a P2, it means free trade price, and a P3 price which is a post-union price, smaller difference between these two, it's 30 and this is 35, is generating smaller proportion of a welfare loss, KMLN. So that is why the sum of these two triangle is greater than, now this portion is generating trade creation in this case. Now let's talk about the Wiener's assumption here. The Wiener is saying that effect of trade diversion, no inter-commodity substitution, that is the assumption of Wiener. Fixed commodity assumption is there. And in the partial equilibrium approach, Jacob Wiener pointed out that Trade diversion causes a loss in welfare. This assertion of Weiner came to be criticized at the hands of J.E. Mead, F. Gehrills, and R.G. Lipsey. So they have pointed out, of course, but before that, we need to understand what Weiner is trying to say. Suppose that the home country A specializes completely in the production of Y. Okay, so this country is producing complete this Y because they have the comparative advantage in this commodity, and they are importing this commodity X from the lowest cost country, which is what the C. Now, based on this, we'll be following this terms of trade line. This AB you consider as a terms of trade line, where there is a point D, where the people of this country A are consuming. The point is D over here. Okay, this is best possible terms of trade line because they are exchanging this OA of Y with this OB from this country C. So consumption is taking at D point, which is a fixed proportion measured by the slope of line OR. You consider this point is R. So this OR line and this point D where they are consuming. When the custom union is formed with country B, the trade gets diverted from C to B. Okay, the member country which is less efficient than the country C, and therefore they are jumping from this best possible terms of trade line to this AC terms of trade line, and now the people are consuming their country at E point because we have the assumption of a fixed consumption. That D2 they are coming to E. Of course, at D we could be on the higher indifference curve. Now we are coming on the lower indifference curve. So E definitely indicating a loss in the welfare. So this OC quantity, now they are importing from the country B, and this OA quantity, the same proportion, point to be noted, the same proportion of a Y they are exporting to this country B. So OC, they are getting less, and they are actually exporting more. And because of that, the consumers are coming on the lower indifference curve or the lower fixed point of consumption. So according to the Weiner assumption, this is indicating the loss in welfare, or we say it is trade diversion. So consumption is still taking at this point E, and it means no substitution take place despite relative changes in price of two commodities. So we have only the change in prices, but we are not talking about the more consumption of Y or other commodities. So no substitution is taking place. The point is clearly indicating an inferior point to D. So it presents smaller amounts of both the commodities consumed. Thus, Weiner assertion becomes valid that the trade diversion results in a loss in welfare here. Okay. Now, Lipsey says, on the basis of these assumptions, Lipsey put Jacob Weiner's model into a general equilibrium framework and proceeded to demonstrate that trade diversion can lead to a loss in welfare after the formation of custom union. Lipsey, however, pointed out that J. Weiner's assumption concerning consumption is fixed proportion is unrealistic. If this assumption is dropped, the trade diversion due to the formation of custom union can have two welfare effects, and these are opposite to each other. The first, after the formation of custom union, country A will have to pay a higher price for commodity X than before because the partner country B from which import is being made is less efficient than the non-member country C. So definitely their terms of trade will be worsening up. Second, since no import duty is being paid on imports from the country B, the domestic price of X will fall, bringing about increased consumption of X due to its substitution for Y. This may result in an increase in the welfare in country A. So this is the important one because it's also an opposite one from this first assumption, the first effect. The second effect Weiner didn't talk about because Weiner assumed that there is no inter-commodity substitution, whereas Lipsey has talked about if there will be the fall in the X commodities price, the people would start consuming more of X with the replacement of Y. So this is definitely increasing the welfare for the country whole. So we'll understand this thing with the effect of trade diversion on welfare with the inter-commodity substitution. Here we have the X commodity, there we have Y commodity. The country A is specializing in the commodity Y because it's their own comparative advantage. And the X commodity, they're importing first from the lowest country, which is lowest importing country, which is C. Okay, so the cost of this country C has the lowest for the commodity X. The country B has decided to import it from the country C. So this OB, it is the amount which they are importing from this country C, and they are exchanging this OA of commodity Y with them. And AB is indicating their terms of trade line, and the D is the point which is on their IC curve, which is showing the fixed proportion of consumption for this commodity Y and the commodity X. Okay. Now, if they are diverting from this country C to country B, so AC would now be their new terms of trade line, fine. And OC quantity they are importing from this country B for this X commodity with the same proportion of Y which they were offering to country C. So this has to be noted here. This OA is the same export of the country A's export for the commodity Y, which they were making earlier to the country, the C, and now they are offering this to country B. But their terms of trades are now worsening up. Earlier, the AB was the terms of trade line. Now their AC is the terms of trade line. Now the important part is what? When they were importing this commodity X from the country C, they were actually imposing the tariff. Now see, this imposing tariff is bringing another line, which is a domestic trade line for faced by their own consumers. Now this is placing on the lower indifference curve I0. So of course, is it showing the lower welfare for this country A. But at the same time, this G and D is lying on the same terms of trade line. This also, indicating the terms of trade line is the same. This is not changed for this particular option. So it means if we are importing this, or we are at this level of consumption, and earlier, because there was no imposition of tariff, we definitely were consuming this. But as there was an imposition of tariff, the consumers, the preferences are changed. Now they are shifting from D point to the G point for their own consumption, which is also at the lower indifference curve. It means now they are more consuming Y and the less of consumption of X. Okay. Because of imposition of tariff, these prices are now more for the consumers of country A. Okay. So intercommodity replacement is there, substitution is there. Now they are replacing this X commodity with the more consumption of Y. But what happens when they are forming, the custom union with the country B? They have jumped on this AC line, and this AC line is indicating their new terms of trade line, but worsen up than this, but still indicating the consumers are now moving from this G point to this F point for their consumption. The reason behind it, because after formation of custom union, there is no tariff. All the tariffs are removed now because this line is now no more. So consumers are moving on this G to F point. So that is why from G to F movement is showing that the consumers are now consuming more of X commodity because the price of X commodity is now fallen up, and the people are now substituting this Y for the commodity X. So this intercommodity substitution says that the commodity X consumption is relatively increasing from G point to this F point. So this shows that yes, there is no welfare laws as such according to the pointed out, let's say over here on the assumption of Wiener. Then we'll talk about the Warnock model. But before that, I would also like to mention some of the criticisms of the Lipsey over here. Professor Jagdish Bhagwati said that the reduction in welfare is not necessarily because of the fixed proportion in consumption, but it is because of the Wienerian implicit assumption of a constant level of imports. So when it is assumed that the volume of imports before and after the formation of custom union is unchanged, it must lead to the conclusion that the trade diversion results in loss in welfare. So we should not forget here the fixed proportion assumption in terms of the constant imports. he was talking about. According to Jagdish Bhagwati, he's mentioning this point. But if the formation of custom union causes an increased volume of imports, there is likelihood that the net welfare remains constant or it rises compared to the pre-union situation. So now we can consider this Warnock model, which is a second general equilibrium approach for this theory of custom union. So Jerusalem Warnock has employed the technique of offer curves to analyze the general equilibrium theory of custom union. So he also have mentioned some assumptions. So we have the few assumptions similar. The country A, B, and C. Country A is the home country. Country B is the partner country, and the country C is the rest of the world, which he is indicating. Each of these countries consumes, produce, and exchange two commodities, that is X and Y. Commodity X is the exportable commodity of country A, and commodity Y is the exportable commodity of partner country B. So commodity Y is also the exportable commodity of the non-member country, country C. Neither of the two commodities is inferior at the relative price or the level of income. And before the formation of custom union, the home country A was trading with the non-member country C. Now, to continue this, the pre-custom union trade situation can be explained through the respective offer curves of the two nations. So here we would have the emphasis on the offer curves. Warnock has made use of the axis offer curve to analyze the trade between the union and the rest of the world. This is country C. And the axis offer curve means what? It indicates various quantities of X commodity which country A is willing to exchange with the different quantities of Y offered by the non-member country C. To understand it more, we'll go for the next slide. Now see here, we have the offer curve of country A and the offer curve of country B. This particular diagram is creating the axis offer curve over here. Okay, so we have here the terms of trade line. This is T1, then T2, and a T3. As this goes on steeper, we think that the terms of trade line is also improving for the country specifically. So here we have this country A's offer curve, which is intersecting, let's say, at T2 line. This T1 line is indicating Px by Py, that is equals to 1. Here we would say that the P2 particular point, here we say that the country A is willing to offer this this commodity X from O to P2, fine. Whereas this country B would like to offer this commodity Y at this P1 point, okay? So there is a difference between this P1 and P2. So country A is actually willing to offer more this commodity X, whereas country B is willing to offer less of this commodity, offer this commodity Y. So the difference between this P1 and a P2 would now be the axis of offer this commodity X by this country A. So this excess amount of this commodity X, the same proportion we would be now measuring on this line T2 here from this OR region, okay? So this OR region is the same proportion of this P1 and P2 line. So this is indicating this OR point here. Similarly, on this terms of trade line, this is O3. Here, country A is offering at the point P4, okay, where it is intersecting this point T3 line at P4. So country A would like to offer this OP4, this commodity of X, whereas this country B would like to offer this OP3. So the axis of this P3 and a P4 in the same proportion we are taking here, which is now OS on this T3 line. So because it's P3 and P4 is greater in proportion this P1 and P2, so that is why this OS is greater than this OR. So the locus point of this, you join this point, this R, S, and so on, would give you this E, which is an axis of a curve here. So this is axis of a curve. And then further this axis of a curve. If the union goes on raising the common tariff against the rest of the world, the axis of a curve of the custom union shifts further to the left OE2. See here, now this axis of a curve will be treated as a custom union's offer curve, and this is the country C's offer curve. So this offer curve would now be first intersecting here at the T1 line, and where Px by Py, which is equals to 1. But when T1 is shifting to T2, which is now more steeper, it means terms of trade, which is improving for the union as whole. So I repeat, if the union goes on raising the common tariff, because rest of the world, this country C, they are now treating with imposition of tariff. So this country C would be imposed tariff by this country A, of course, and they will, shift this offer curve E to E1 here, and the axis offer curve of the custom union shifts further left to this OE2, and also so same proportion, the same implication what we studied in case of optimum tariff here. So in the case of the intersection between OE2 and OC determines trade equilibrium point, which is what the P2 here. The TOT line on OT3 becomes still steeper, indicating further improvement in the terms of trade for the custom union and worsening the terms of trade for the rest of the world, which is what this country sees. The increase in external tariff not only improves the terms of trade, but also raises the level of welfare. The point of welfare maximization is reached where the trade indifference curve of the union becomes tangent to the offer curve of the rest of the world. So we discussed this particular concept in the optimum tariff. So if the trade indifference curve is tangent to this, okay, and if moving on further, then this OE2 point, if it is resulting the declining in the trade indifference curve and the welfare, then the country will not, retaliate than this. It means the optimum tariff would be maximized by imposition of a tariff by this custom union on the rest of the world based on the similar assumptions of and the concept of optimum tariff here. So thus Warnock model establishes a relationship between the level of external tariff and the welfare maximization of member countries. This approach makes a significant departure from Wiener and Lipsey's approaches. It analyzes the welfare effect of custom union without making reference to trade creation and trade diversion effects. Thank you.